We are in the future. Here we are in the future, and it's bright. I can't believe we've come so far. Steven Universe future, here we are.
Steven Universe future.
Just can it, won't ya? You can't just make everything better by singing some stupid song!
Truth be told, I wasn't expecting to ever make another video on Steven Universe, even after the movie came out. There have been plenty of other criticisms of the movie and the series that are far more thorough and, hyperbolic than I could ever be.
Sugar wrote herself into a corner with Rose, and rather than just abandon this stupid red herring of a plot, she just started taking the white out to the story like a Republican senator on the Confederate Wikipedia page.
Seriously, that line is so partisan, not even Movie Bob or Cenk Uygur would use it. Regardless, it seemed unnecessary for me to put my 2 cents in. But then I realized that it had been nearly a year since I posted something, which needs to be fixed with greater frequency, but also it was brought to my attention that there was going to be a limited epilogue series predicated on the events of the movie, and I was rather annoyed by this. Wait, we're going to get the missing story details of the series now that the adventure is effectively over? Jasper's going to be a villain again? Why wasn't she the villain in the movie? Is that supposed to be a pink version of White Diamond? What's worse is that the movie has brought in new elements and character changes that brings everything that has been established into question. Of course, that last part is something endemic to Steven Universe itself, but that's something that shouldn't have happened in what should have been the capstone of the series. On the bright side, these changes mean that the series itself is technically over, so I can review it as a whole, but that will be for my next video. Of course, people might rightfully say that because I made a video calling Steven Universe a contrived form of homomania propaganda, that I obviously wouldn't be a fan of the movie, but that wouldn't be the case. Even if it has a subject that is contrary to my convictions, I can still appreciate media when it is well made. How else would I know it's propaganda otherwise? For example, even though Dogma by Kevin Smith has blasphemous implications, it is still one of my favorite movies because it has most of the necessary story beats and great dialogue.
You people. If there isn't a movie about it, it's not worth knowing, is it?
To say nothing of the jabs at Roman Catholicism. Having George Carlin as a priest is that's just fantastic. My criticism is also not limited by me not being a fan of the series either. Before watching the Steven Universe movie, I saw the Invader Zim movie and I really enjoyed it, despite never being a fan of the series it's based on. There is a morbid and misanthropic tone to the Invader Zim series that's a big turnoff even for an introvert like myself. And even though you can still sense that tone in the movie, it's still very entertaining.
As you know, tomorrow is Peace Day, and nobody is as excited for the big celebration as I am. I am! Not scientifically possible!
So entertaining that I actually looked up some of the TV episodes to see if I liked it now. But no such luck. There is some good stuff in there, but I don't care enough to finish. Now before I start the criticism, I want to address a greater motivation. Why am I even bothering to critique a movie based on a series that I watch but never recommend to anyone? As if critics really need a reason to criticize. First of all, I love the animation medium.
With animation you may express things in unlimited ways. Be tasteful as or with just a few bucks blow off more stuff than Ted Michael Bay's.
And always will. But also there's a bit of a confession to this. Despite all the criticism that I'm about to level at this movie, when it comes to Rebecca Sugar and the production crew, otherwise known as the Cooniverse, these people have my dream job and I envy them for it. Working in a network devoted to cartoons and creating an original animated series that has a very devout audience? That's something I've wanted all my life. Granted, the Cooniverse consists of people who would probably consider me a Nazi, and a segment of the audience has done some rather unacceptable stuff.
No! They're just using my art in a way I don't agree with.
Oh. We'll pass.
But that's not the point. The point is that this criticism is also an expression of disappointment in a story made by people who are in a position I still subconsciously want to have someday. An additional motivation is that Steven Universe, for all of its many objective faults, has been the one original cartoon show that has been able to hold my interest that wasn't made in Japan. Anime references notwithstanding. The show also has a very fun concept that still has a lot of exploration potential, and it just saddens me that the creators either ran out of time with it or don't really know what to do with it. I also just realized that I will be making many references to the 5-year running series, but I will try to translate it for anyone who doesn't know what Steven Universe is about without making an hour-long video. Wish me luck. All that said, let's get into the actual movie in question. Steven Universe, the
Discrepancy
movie. Spoiler warning. Just in case you missed it. So when I get to watching the Steven Universe movie, I find myself wondering, who is this movie for? I actually believe that this movie is less for the established fans and more for the detractors. The movie opens up with a cleaned up summary of the events of the original series, which turns out to be a public announcement to the entire galactic empire, the Gem Empire. The announcement is being made by the Diamond Matriarchs, Yellow, Blue, and White, the former antagonists turned allies, and Steven Universe, the main protagonist who is the surviving son / reincarnation of the Diamond Matriarch, Pink. However, it's very clear during and after this public announcement that these are not the same Steven or Diamonds that we left at the end of the series. Steven, originally a childish and determined hero, is now a retired hero who wants to live happily ever after. And the Diamonds, originally ruthless dictators now humbled by Steven's actions, have been turned into what I can only describe as needy guardians who don't want their child to go to college. I realize that 2 years have passed since the end of the series, but these changes in character seem to only exist because the movie demands it. Some might argue that Steven's changing character is an improvement because he has been a kind of Deus Ex Machina in the series so far. But here's the thing. All the events of the series basically revolved around the fact that Steven is a kind of Deus Ex Machina. Steven has always been the unknown element of the series, and his very presence causes changes around him. He becomes more powerful, overpowered in many respects, and more mature over time, but his personality never really changes.
That's pretty smart. When did you get so mature?
Somewhere in between learning to summon my shield and finding out my mom is a war criminal.
That may be lazy from a storytelling standpoint, but that's what's been established so far. In the movie, however, this personality is altered so that Steven's great revelation at the end is realizing that the first power he ever learned was to change. This is supposed to arc him from retired hero to reluctant hero within the movie, but in the context of the series, that would be like me claiming that the first thing I ever learned was how to age. Change on Earth and in human life is what Pink Diamond fell in love with, so much so that she was willing to lead a rebellion against her empire to preserve the Earth, and was even willing to give up her very existence in order to give birth to Steven.
When a gem is made, it's for a reason. They burst out of the ground already knowing what they're supposed to be, and then that's what they are. Forever. But you're supposed to change. You're never the same, even moment to moment. You're allowed and expected to invent who you are. What an incredible power. The ability to grow up.
As for the Diamond's altered characters, this is actually a criticism that I want to make on the series as a whole in the next video, but the fact is that there is still so much unexplained about the Diamonds for their 2 movie appearances to be meaningful. We still don't know where the Diamonds came from or what their real motivations are for doing anything. We are given hints as to what their roles are in the Gem Empire, but they are never explicitly clarified. In the last episode of the series, it is suggested that Yellow and Blue are only obeying White's orders, and White Diamond wants everyone to be doing what they were initially created to do, but we are never given an origin or motivation outside of White Diamond's self-delusion of being the embodiment of perfection.
Now the impurities you've encouraged in them are gone. Now they are brilliant. Now they are perfect. Now they are me.
You don't normally need these things for your villains, but since White becomes a reluctant ally, this is something we should know. Keep in mind that diamonds and gems are artificial life forms who don't need to eat or sleep, so what real motivations do they have to form an empire? They don't even need security because they are the most powerful beings in the known galaxy. I developed my own fan theory where White Diamond was an AI creation that outlived her creators and was still following her original programming. This resulted in the creation of the Diamond Authority, who harvested their own world to create more gems, who in turn harvested even more worlds in an endless cycle, forming the Empire. But we don't even have that much in terms of lore. In the series, we are told that Pink Diamond is supposedly a part of White Diamond.
But you're a part of me, the part I always have to repress.
And with Steven being a kind of reincarnation of Pink Diamond, it would be good to know what that part is. But not only is it never explained what that part is, it is also rather strange that White Diamond would want to keep Steven around, especially since White says that she didn't even need Pink around.
As for me, I'm certain I don't need you. After all, I'm every color of the light.
But look at me, trying to make sense of the tripe that was the Steven Universe series. The show originally ends with White Diamond accepting that she isn't the embodiment of perfection, and that the Pink Diamond she knew is long gone. The point I'm trying to get at is that since we don't have enough lore on the Diamonds, we don't get a sense of what it means for the Diamonds to stop being an empire, something that they've been doing for thousands of years. In fact, when we get to the movie, any attitudes that the Diamonds may have and how they ran their empire for thousands of years is completely chucked out, especially if it means they can keep Steven on Homeworld, the center of the empire. Also, since the Diamonds have 3 different personalities and 3 different moods towards Pink and Steven during the series, I found their opening harmony to be a bit preposterous.
Come live with us in the palace. There's a room waiting for you. Come on, come on. Just let us adore you.
I can imagine Blue Diamond doing this, but I can't imagine Yellow or White doing this. More information should have been given by this point, but it was never given. Good grief. All this and I haven't even gotten to the movie's setup or subplot yet. I'm tempted to say that Rebecca Sugar and the Crooniverse have no respect for the source material, as SJWs are to do, but they invented the source material. When they were writing this movie out, did none of them come to the realization of how off this was to what has been established?
It was like this race against the clock because I had to start writing the music as soon as possible, but I couldn't write the music until the story was approved.
Of course, in light of the limited epilogue series coming out, it is possible that explanations will finally be given, but that's why I'm making this video and why I started out with that edited clip. To put it simply, it's too little, too late. Any information that might be given should have already been given, either in the series or the movie itself. But I can see what my video looks like right now, and some will say, come on, Artistic Layman, you're just finding excuses to nitpick. Surely if you embrace the movie on its own terms, you will enjoy it. But that's part of the problem. This movie is predicated on 5 years of content and hiatuses. Noticing the discrepancies are a must for me, to say nothing of anyone who watches the movie and then bothers to watch the series afterwards only to notice them as well. But now let's actually get to the setup of the movie, shall we? After resorting to some subterfuge to get away from the Diamonds,
Steven, we've done everything you've asked.
That's great. Good job. Keep it up. Bye.
another uncharacteristic moment for Steven, he travels back to Earth, gets a peck on the cheek from his girlfriend Connie, and then starts singing the setup song where he and the secondary protagonists, Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl, heroes who fought in the rebellion against the Empire to save Earth, each sing a summary of their experiences from the series, fully convinced that they're going to live happily ever after. This is all shattered when the antagonist Spinel shows up with a giant drill that will inject poison into the Earth, killing all organic life, along with an energy scythe called a Rejuvenator that causes any gem hit by it to revert back to their, I guess the best way of describing it is, their original factory settings. Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl are hit by the Rejuvenator, and when they recover, they don't remember who they were, while Steven gets hit and loses all of his powers. Steven then takes the Rejuvenator and hits Spinel with it, which causes her to be convinced that she is Steven's best friend. Now, that's a pretty interesting movie setup, right? A dangerous and wonderfully animated villain appears, with a very catchy song.
That's right, I heard the story over and over again. Gee, it's swell to finally meet her other friends.
Places the Earth and the human race into mortal peril, makes mincemeat out of the heroes, and is given a factory reset so she can't remember who she is or be made to undo the destruction that she has started. This is a pretty intense movie setup, right? Unfortunately, this setup has a mountain of discrepancies. Let's start with Spinel's weapons, the poison drill and the Rejuvenator. In the movie, we are told that the Rejuvenator was used by the Empire to keep rebellious gems in line, to which I'm left wondering, why was this weapon never used prior to this movie? In the series, we are told that Pink Diamond, under the persona of Rose Quartz, started a rebellion to stop the harvesting of Earth. The rebellion went on for hundreds of years, but with no sign of resolution. More happens after that, but let me ask a question. Can you imagine how short the rebellion would have been if the Empire sent an army loaded with Rejuvenators to squash the rebellion? Of course, I'm guessing the reason the rejuvenators weren't used prior to the movie is because they didn't exist until the movie was being made. The same goes for the poison drill. Prior to the events of the movie, when a diamond went out to harvest a world, they would first send an invading army to colonize it and fight off any resisting organic life. But would it not have been easier and more effective to send the drill, poison the planet, and harvest the resources after all the organic life is dead? The gems are not affected by the poison, and if the harvesting only involves mineral resources, then the absence of animal and plant life wouldn't matter. I know that idea is a bit morbid, but if the drill existed prior to the events of the movie, you'd expect the Empire to use it more often. Some might argue that Spinell invented the poison, but that's going to be contradicted by information given later in the movie. There's also a problem regarding the Rejuvenator and its involvement in the subplot. It turns out that the Rejuvenator doesn't actually reset the characters to their original state, but it simply suppresses their memories as if they were reset to their original state. With this, the subplot of the movie is Steven restoring the memories of each character, each memory restoration with its own musical segment, and for me, this is a storytelling problem. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with using restoration of memory gaps as a plot device, but it only really works when the audience doesn't know what the lost memories are. Otherwise, the audience is just sitting there waiting for the story to advance. I first realized this watching Kung Fu Panda 2, where the hero Po is having memory flashes when encountering a new batch of enemies. Unfortunately, the start of the movie already gave a summary of how the enemies relate to Po, and during the intervening action, I was constantly wondering at what point does Po learn what I already know. It was nagging and annoying. If the summary at the beginning was cut out, I would have had a shared experience of revelation with Po, allowing the narrative to match the quality of the action scenes. Now, while Kung Fu Panda 2 has cool action scenes before the memory restoration, everything up until the final fight scene in the Steven Universe movie is mostly just memory restoration songs. I found myself wanting to skip every other song because I was so bored.
Creepy, 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 creepy.
Some critics have suggested that this restoration subplot is a chance to show that Steven is fully capable of coming through to help his fallen friends. But don't we already know that? Throughout the series, Steven has already demonstrated that he is always willing to jump in to do the right thing, especially in defense of his friends. Do we really need to reaffirm it again? Also, the Steven Universe series is well known for the slow revealing of its plot details. So it just seems odd to have a movie that summarizes the established characters not once, but twice. The only time this wasn't boring was when Steven was restoring the memories of Spinell, and that's because he's completely new to the story. And unfortunately, Spinell's existence has its own batch of problems. As much fun as it is to have an animator's dream character like Spinell in the universe of, well, Steven Universe, there is a problem regarding her origin. The reason why Spinell thinks Steven is her best friend after being reset is because Spinell was originally assigned to be a kind of court jester and friend to entertain Pink Diamond in lieu of Pink having her own colony. You see, in the series, Pink was considered the child of the matriarchs, and while the other diamonds had colonized many planets, she didn't even have one, and was constantly insisting on having one.
Yellow!
Hey, Yellow. Oh, you're still here.
What are you doing?
I'm commanding the dropships to colonize this planet.
I want to command a dropship!
Well, when you have your own colony, you can command whatever you want.
I want a colony!
Finally, when Pink was given a planet, Earth, Spinell wanted to go with her. Looking rather annoyed and not wanting to take Spinell with her, Pink instead started a "don't move from the spot" game with Spinell. Wanting to please her diamond/best friend, Spinell complies and is left standing in one place for 6,000 years. That is, until the Empire-wide public announcement is made, and she hears for the first time that Pink Diamond is gone, survived by Steven, who is living peacefully with his friends on Earth. Without her. 6,000 years of waiting for nothing. This revelation devastates Spinell, which then launches her into a campaign of vengeance with the poison drill and the rejuvenator. Yeah... where do I begin with this? I mean, this revelation does mean that Spinell's planning and execution of her vengeance campaign took less than 10 minutes, which is hardly enough time for a court jester to invent a poison, alien or not, but that's not what I'm concerned with here. In the series, Pink Diamond, as her alter ego Rose Quartz, has always been presented as morally ambiguous, doing questionable things while being heroic. Whether it be secretly pacifying an ally named Bismuth, who wanted to use lethal force to liberate all gem kind from the Empire. Pink only wanted to save Earth, not destroy her fellow diamonds.
But I didn't just disappear, did I? You know what happened to me!
or concealing the fact that she herself was a diamond from her closest allies.
Rose. She...
Zephyr, she lied to us! She lied about everything!
In the movie, when Steven first hears about Spinell's origin, he finds it perfectly consistent with Pink's character.
I can't believe Mom did that to you. Actually, I can totally believe it.
But I had to wonder about that. I remember a moment watching the Invader Zim movie and recognizing a plot reveal that Zim was going to do a few minutes before it happened. And even though I wasn't a fan of Invader Zim, I knew enough of the show to see the plot reveal, laugh to myself and think, ha, this is definitely something that Invader Zim would do. But when I saw Spinell's backstory, I thought to myself, I don't think Pink Diamond would do that. And here's why I think so. In the series, the Gem Empire has a very stringent caste system. However, Pink Diamond expresses an affinity for gems beneath her caste that is not shared by her fellow diamonds. The first time we see Pink and Pearl together in the series, Pearl being a member of the servant caste, Pink tries to have a conversation with her as if they were equals.
Could you imagine that running a colony would be this dull?
I could imagine it, if you would like me to, my diamond.
Pink was even friendly to the gnome-like pebble servants who lived and worked in the floors and walls of her palace room.
Alright, who are you guys?
Very funny, Pink.
Always playing her games, pretending she doesn't know us pebbles.
I always figured that this affinity was because of Pink's lower status among her fellow diamonds, and now this movie is expecting me to believe that she would pull a trick like that on a servant whose sole purpose was to be her friend and entertainer. Not to mention that in the series, it's very clear that Pink is bored out of her mind while managing the colonization of Earth, and I can easily imagine Pink bringing Spinell to Earth. But even if I grant the idea that Pink Diamond would leave Spinell standing in one place, you know who wouldn't leave it be? Blue Diamond. At one point during the Rebellion of Earth, Pink fakes her own death in the hope that it would scare the Empire away. But when Blue heard of Pink's death, she was emotionally broken and depressed. Blue Diamond, who was notorious for shattering gems who got out of line, was made a shell of her former self. She mourned over Pink's death for thousands of years, and in that mourning, she went out to preserve everything that reminded her of Pink, whether it be the human zoo that was meant to save a remnant of the human race, the rose quartz gems that were related to the alter ego Pink used to fake her death, even going so far as wanting to preserve the Earth itself, all because it reminded her of Pink. With all that, you just know that Blue would have preserved Spinell and the spot she was waiting in, especially when the spot was a garden specifically made for Pink Diamond. The more I think about this, the more it annoys me. This movie frustrates me so much. What on earth was Rebecca Sugar and the Crooniverse thinking when they created Spinell for this movie? Looking at the Steven Universe Future intro, there appears to be no shortage of antagonist options. Did the story of Spinell really have to happen? Did we really need to throw more shade on the already dubious character of Pink Diamond? Considering the issues I've already brought up regarding the established character changes, the new main plot elements, and the subplot, I don't know what else to say in regards to this movie. I feel like there's no need to even talk about the ending of the movie, except the resolution is pretty much what you expect from Steven Universe nowadays. A new status quo where all is forgiven. As a matter of principle, I should like that ending, but there's something very unsatisfying about it this time around.
Has your planet always been this... destroyed?
Not that we're judging.
Goodness, no. Because judging anything based on appearance is wrong.
Yeah, I don't know about this.
Okay, that was funny. The closing shot has the heroes dressed up and walking down a Broadway show-style staircase, which feels like the creators of the movie congratulating themselves for having made the movie at all. What a train wreck experience this movie was for me. I see others on YouTube saying that they enjoyed this movie, but the only way I can see anyone enjoying it is by simultaneously ignoring the details established by the series so far. Is there anything I like about it? Yeah, Dee Margot Hall gives a beautiful performance as Pearl, as usual, and I can also enjoy listening to some of the songs for their own sake, but never as they relate to the mess of the movie. As far as I'm concerned, the Steven Universe movie, as well as the upcoming epilogue episodes, don't really need to exist in the same way the new Star Wars episodes don't need to exist. The only difference being is that I'll actually watch the epilogue episodes. Writing this review was so infuriating, especially since there wasn't much constructive criticism to be had from it. I wonder if this is because Rebecca Sugar and the Crewniverse were being complacent and/or incompetent, or if Cartoon Network just rushed them into making something that they didn't know how to handle. That's why I'm actually looking forward to my next video on the Steven Universe series as a whole. At least in that there will be something positive to be learned, which is the thing that prevents Steven Universe from being more than just the sum of its parts. And believe it or not, the metaphors of the LGBTQ community are only tangential to that point. Until next time, may the will of God be your way. Don't forget to like or dislike this video, add it to your favorites or share it if you really liked it, leave a comment below, follow me on social media, subscribe and hit the bell for future videos. And if you think what I do is worthy of financial support, go to my Patreon link in the description. I really should have a subscribe star count by now. Later.